This is Northeast Streaming Sports. Come on, give it to me. There we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Starting off your day on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing writer, Hall of Fame inductee, Jack Hirsch. On Mac and Jack Sports Thursday, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mac. How you doing?
Not too bad, as long as maybe next time we'll get the music director for our things out here right and get it right this next time. But with that being said,
I gotta get started a little quicker because you come on, how you doing, Jack? And I say, fine, how are you doing, Mac? Like I haven't talked to you at all before the show. And maybe we're not prepared. How do the people know? Maybe I just walked into the studio at this moment. And maybe I was coming in late, unprepared.
You know what, Jack? And maybe I was listening to the greatest hits of whoever I was playing first before I came on the show. So, we never know. But anyway, a lot of sports news. And of course, a lot of stuff to go over today. We're going to have on Carter B on a little bit of NHL news. We're going to cover the MLB playoff race, talk about tonight's game in the NFL. And we'll have Brady Tinker, Cowboys broadcaster and expert, on to talk a little bit about the Cowboys. But I want to start first with something different, Jack, right? In the sports news, they had Nick Saban during a press conference. It said he went on a rant, right? And he really didn't. I mean, he said to one of the people asking the question there at the conference, have you ever played sports before? Because the guy asked him a question. And at the end, he said, evidently, you didn't. But it really wasn't a rant, Jack. I mean, I can tell you some rants that happened during my time watching sports. In fact, I got a couple for you. And I thought it'd be a lot of fun to check out some of the best rants in football. So let me see if I can bring this up. And for the people at home that have probably some have seen this already, Jack, but it's still funny as heck. So let's go ahead and bring that up.
Don't back them up. Period. Cut and dry. It's nobody's concern but ours. Nobody's. Next.
Injuries from the game.
Talk to the trainer. Next.
All right. Mike, why are you in such a bad mood?
What do you care? Okay. You were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood too. What next?
We just the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Well, we gave them a week at the start of the semester rather than at the end. But here's my point, okay? It's Division I football! It's a Big 12! It ain't intramurals! You got 2 weeks after finals, you got a week in July 4th, and you got a week before camp starts. That's a month! That's probably more vacation than you guys get. And we're a little bummed out that we don't get 3 weeks? Go play intramurals, brother. Go play intramurals.
And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, what's going on? I said, it's a cat in the house. Cat in the house? I said, yeah, there's a cat in the house. So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. The cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog.
And then you want to write articles about guys that don't do things right and downgrade them, the ones that do make plays. Are you kidding me? Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid. Write something about me or our coach.
The second game, we got our ass kicked. Or the second half, we just got our ass totally kicked. We couldn't do diddly poo offensively. We couldn't make a first down. We couldn't run the ball. We didn't try to run the ball. We couldn't complete a pass. We sucked. The second half, we sucked. We couldn't stop the run. Every time they got the ball, they went down and got points. We got our ass totally kicked in the second half. That's what it boiled down to. It was a horse performance in the second half. Horse. I'm totally embarrassed and totally ashamed. Coaching, our coaching did a horrible job. The players did a horrible job. We got our ass kicked in that second half. It sucked. It stunk.
About sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth. Number one. Number two, we are not a charity. We cannot give them the game. That's number two. And number three is we execute from the very start of the game to the very end of the game. That did not happen. I'm from the old school. I believe this. I would rather play with 10 people and just get penalized all the way until we got to do something else, rather than play with 11 when I know that right now that person is not sold out to be a part of this team. It is more about them than it is about the team. Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it. I want winners. I want people that want to win.
Not blame that game on the defense, okay? I don't care who you play, whether it's a high school team, a junior college team, a college team, much less an NFL team. When you turn the ball over 5 times, 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, 3 others in field position to set up touchdowns, you ain't gonna beat anybody I just talked about. Anybody. All right? And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
I'm willing to go to fairly amazing lengths to try to make that happen. I don't know if I'll be successful this week or not, but you know, I am going to try, and there will be some people inconvenienced, and if it happens to be their fat little girlfriends, too bad.
You know, you get so excited about getting married, all right, but after you're married for a while, you know, you got to have a process to make it work, all right, and no matter what happens, we need to have a process to make it work in every game that we play. Every game that we play. Can't assume anything. I don't even know what you asked me, but I just wanted to say that.
So there you go, Jack. Some of the funniest rants for head coaches in college and in pros. And, you know, Bill Parcells didn't make the list, but he had some. And some were very successful coaches, and some weren't too successful. As we know, Singletary was not too successful. Mora was up and down. And, of course, Ditka was successful for quite a long time in Chicago. But, you know, I guess it comes down to the pressure, right, Jack, I think, of winning. I mean, if you think about it, Bill Belichick is not like that at all. You know, you have Nick Saban who does talk to the media a little bit more than Belichick. But can you imagine the pressure of trying to win or trying to stay on top? That's got to be unbelievable in any sport.
Well, you know, it's very difficult when things aren't going a coach's way, and then he has to meet the media. And the key word is has to, because there are rules. You have to go to the press conference. It's not like years ago where reporters would go into locker rooms, talk to the players. The coach could shut his door if he wanted to. And these guys are under a lot of stress. And let's face it, some of the questions are redundant. They're asked over and over again. I mean, the coach might be asked, "Oh, are you very upset over this loss?" And he'll say, "Of course I'm upset over this loss, idiot," he's going to think, Or sometimes the media comes up with a ridiculously bad question where I don't like to fire people, but I would, at the very least, would have suspended the reporter for a year, whatever. He asked the Lion coach, Jim Schwartz, at the time years ago. Jim Schwartz has hired his son-in-law as one of the assistants, and he asks after the Lions lose a game, "Are you happy now that your son-in-law married your daughter?" I mean,
Wow.
What kind of ridiculous question? I mean, I probably would have fired him, and I hate firing people over a question like that. And you have certain coaches, they know how to deal with it. They get control of the situation, like Bill Parcells. He kind of goes after the media a little. He gives them short answers. There's select few coaches, Mac, who are so powerful, they actually scare the media. The media's not going to go after them like Bill Parcells. Bill Belichick was like that. He had an off year last year. If the Patriots don't win this year, they might gently go after him a little more. But Bill Belichick, short answers to the point. It's as if these guys are saying, the coaches are saying, we're fulfilling our obligation. We're giving you answers at the press conference. It's short, it's to the point, but it's very generic. But some coaches get very emotional, and they're human. I mean, their job's on the line, some of them. They suffer tough loss, and no matter what they do, they're going to get questioned, okay? If they did just the opposite, they'd get questioned. So it either has to be successful, or people are going to say, well, they made a mistake. They could have done so and so. And I mean, they're human. They're human.
No doubt. So Jack, behind the under the screen right now, behind in the studio, behind the scenes, we have our NHL expert Carter B. And let's bring him on, talk a little bit about hockey news. And Carter, do you know of any coach in the NHL? We just showed a clip of coaches going on rants in football. When they get asked certain questions, especially when they lose the game right after the game. I mean, you got a reporter asking them questions, and of course they're upset. And they ask that question like, "What should you have done? This should you have done that?" And they just go off. And hockey, up here in the Northeast, is Trotz. Have you ever seen Trotz go off, or any of the other coaches during a press conference?
Not really. I think in hockey they try to be more reserved when it comes to that stuff, and Trotz for one thing is very professional. I mean, he's he's been in the league a long time, so he knows kind of what to say and what not to say in terms of answering press conference questions. So no, it's not every day you see something like that in the NHL, but you get it sometimes.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into the NHL. The training camps have opened up, right? They're ready to rock. Do fans, like in football, baseball, are they allowed in the arena to watch the hockey training camps?
They used to be, I'm pretty sure, but now I'm not too sure about that since everything going on with COVID. So but regardless of whether you're allowed in the rink or not, fans are excited nonetheless. I mean, they watch highlights either way. They'll pay attention to preseason games just like with the regular season. So it's definitely an exciting time.
Carter, let's talk about the NHL offseason in general. It doesn't bring the same attention as the other sports because in the NFL, we're talking about the college draft, the mock drafts, all off season, and baseball, the winter trade meetings, basketball, potential trades. Somehow about hockey, it's a quiet sport. I think it would help hockey a lot if there was a bit more off-season activity that could be created, a bit more off-season talk. Because I got more into hockey last year. I really did. But then all of a sudden the season ends and I shut off and my switch might not come on again until opening day of the regular season. What can hockey do to improve that?
I'm going to be honest. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, it's funny because hockey's usually the sport that kind of remains the same over the course of the offseason, right? I know it's kind of a boring answer, but most of the time in the NBA, you have these massive trades that go on in the offseason, right? Same thing in the NFL sometimes. NHL, you generally don't have huge trades like that every day. I mean, it's a lot about wanting consistency in the NHL, right? I mean, you don't see teams blowing it up too often. So, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe it's got something to do with the salary cap being so low, but I'm honestly not too sure.
It's a funny thing, Mac, too. You think of boxing, these YouTube sensations get millions of people following them, but hockey's such a skilled sport. You're not going to have someone all of a sudden take up hockey and make it to the NHL. It's just not going to happen, in adulthood. But maybe you have some young teenagers who could be projected a few years down the line as stars and can get a YouTube following. And you only need one to get a massive following who could kind of carry the sport, kind of the way Gretzky did when he was traded from Edmonton to the LA Kings. All of a sudden, Hollywood was going crazy, and it really helped the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again because obviously Gretzky was a once in a lifetime type of player, but I mean I feel like that would help a little bit, but I guess we'll have to see what happens down the line.
Well, Jack, I think that's a great idea. Maybe you should get 5 kids together, 5 YouTube sensations together, and have them challenge the Islanders in a hockey game. That would be very interesting. So let's get to some more hockey news. The NHL investigation concludes no evidence of gambling or throwing games by San Jose Sharks player Evander Kane. These allegations were made by his estranged wife. They're going through a divorce. She's also now alleged sexual assault allegations and domestic abuse filings. It's a shame, Carter, because some people, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are people that go through very nasty divorces when it comes to children, it comes to, what they get, money. But being a public figure, I mean, this gets magnified by 10, and whether you did it or you didn't do it, of course, in no matter what anybody says, in public opinion, you're guilty to proven innocent. What do you think this does to Kane? I mean, he's had problems. He got bankruptcy. Now he's got all this coming in. I mean, if you're the San Jose Sharks, I mean, you're tempted to cut him and just get on with it. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't really see something like this in the NHL every offseason, right? This is definitely something I've never seen before, and with Kane, I know the Sharks are trying to support him in every way they can. I know some of his teammates have come out and said that they support him throughout all of this. So, it's definitely a rough situation for everybody involved. But I think at the end of the day, though, it's important for the team to stand behind Kane, even if if the allegations do wind up being true. And he's got a fairly big contract under him too. He's making, I think, $6 or $7 million for the next couple of seasons. So it'll be pretty hard to just cut him. But I'm not too sure what's going to happen with this, to be honest. It's obviously something that we've never really seen before, especially since sports gambling is so new in hockey.
Yeah. I just know it. Being a public figure, you get a lot of accolades, you get a lot of money, you get popularity. But when something bad happens, that gets a lot of play too. So I guess you take the good and the bad with that stuff there. The Anaheim Ducks, right? Recently, as 5 years ago, they were the number one team in the West Division over there. They went to the playoffs 2 out of 3 times. And they've just declined steadily since then, Carter, right? I mean, they really don't got no big stars there. They got a lot of young kids playing. I mean, what does it take? I mean, you're on top. Say the Islanders, for instance, right? They've been on top pretty much for the last few years here, at least the last couple. They're challenging, and all of a sudden it all goes away. I mean, as a GM, as a coach, watching this happen, and of course, as fans. I mean, what does a team like the Anaheim Ducks got to do to at least start building again? Is it through free agency? Do they have to wait on those kids to progress, or a mixture of both? What do you think?
I think it's a healthy mix, but I think you don't want to rush anything, right? I think most of it is just you just want to kind of let the kids in the lineup play, right? Anaheim's a very young team. They got a lot of good young talent, so it's important to kind of, not be too hard on them, right? You just want to let them get the ice time that they deserve, and you'll kind of just see what happens down the line. It's not about making the playoffs this year for Anaheim. It's really just about just letting some of that young talent grow and develop for another year, get another experience under their belt, and maybe 2-3 years down the line, the narrative changes. But for now, I think, it's the goal for them.
Part of the NHL is the latest sport to try to make things a bit safer. Cross-checking has always been a part of hockey, and they're cracking down on it a bit because guys have been taken out. They're worried about concussions. I mean, is this going to make players a little less aggressive going forward?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, we saw it a couple of years ago, and they were cutting down on slashing penalties, right? That, the same thing happened. I mean, there are still quite a few slashing penalties that are called, but I think at the end of the day, players know that, they got to be more careful with things like that. Otherwise, they'll be called fairly easily. So, I think the narrative is going to change, and I think it's a good thing for the league to do. And, it's become a bit of an issue over the course of the last season, or, maybe a little bit more than that. So, I definitely think it's a good start.
Carter, left winger Johnny Gaudreau is in his last year of the $40 million contract. He's from New Jersey. And, of course, the rumors are going to start, and they already have in part, whether he would be willing to come back to the Northeast, play in the East Coast again. I mean, could you see one of the teams here in the Northeast maybe making a big play for him? I mean, I know it's going to cost a little bit of money, but can you see the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, one of these teams getting in line to try and sign him?
If I'm being honest, not really. I mean, he's had a few rough years in Calgary. I mean, granted, he's still a great player, but the Islanders have no cap space to do it. I don't think the Flyers really have much either. The Rangers, again, they're a pretty young team themselves. They already added what they had to add. I think New Jersey might be an interesting option. I mean, he's from Southern Jersey, so he might be interested in coming to Jersey, depending on what their salary cap situation is looking like. But I'm not too sure, to be honest. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I know a lot of players love to return home, especially in their later years. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, the Sabres agreed to a 3-year extension with their defenseman, Rasmus Dahlin. I mean, does he have star potential? They paid him pretty good money, $6 million a year, and they put the Jack Eichel situation on the back burner because they wanted to resolve, that signing. So what does that mean for the Buffalo Sabres? Are the young players committed to staying with the Sabres? Or are the players on the Sabres, do you get a feel some of them just worn out because it's a team that might not be going anywhere in the near future?
I mean, it might be that way for certain players, but I think Dahlin's obviously committed to Buffalo. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed an extension, right? So, I definitely think he does have star potential. I mean, if he were on a different team, I can't help but think that maybe he'd be a little bit better offensively and defensively as well. But, it's interesting to see him sign that extension in Buffalo. I mean, granted, he can't just walk away considering he's a restricted free agent, but it's important for Buffalo to get this guy locked down. He's going to be a big piece of their defense for a long time.
Big question. I constantly ask you about Jack Eichel, the latest, but what we've never asked you, does Jack Eichel want out of Buffalo? What's his attitude? What's his feeling? I mean, because he got the thought was he was going to retire as a Sabre because he was a fixture of that organization. does he want out? I mean, what are the rumors? Has he asked to be traded, or would he be happy to stay at Buffalo? I mean, what's the situation there?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's tough for everybody that's involved, and I think Eichel at this point wants out of Buffalo. You know, you're seeing everything going on with his injury and the way it's been handled, and I don't think you know, Eichel himself or his agent or any members of his camp are really happy with what's going on. So, yeah, I don't think Eichel's future is in Buffalo.
Does he have a no trade at all? Can he give a number of teams who would be willing to be traded to, or can the Sabres just trade him anywhere without his permission?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I don't have his contract details in front of me, but yeah, again, I don't know where his future is. I know for a fact it's not in Buffalo, but you know, teams are definitely they're a bit how do I say this? They're a bit hesitant to trade for him because of everything that's going on, because he hasn't gotten any you know, kind of repercussion for his surgery just yet. So I don't know how long this is going to be holding out, but you know, if I had to guess, I mean, I've heard this from a number of NHL insiders and analysts that they think that Eichel's going to go to training camp, he's going to fail his physical, and they're going to wind up stripping him of the captaincy in Buffalo. So it's definitely not a you know, pretty.
Well, can they strip him of that failing a physical? That's a very bad look to strip a guy of being captain because he failed a physical, because technically that's not his fault if he's failed a physical. That's not an attitude situation.
At this point, I don't think it's because of the failed physical. I think it's because of everything else that's going on. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, it's a messy situation right now for everybody up there in Buffalo. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where this whole thing goes.
So GM of the Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, came out and said, "No vaccine, you're not on the team." I mean, you know, I understand you want everything to be safe and everything, but if it's one of your major players that refuses to get a vaccine, I mean, that's it. Do you think that's he'll follow through if one of those major players on the Islanders says, "Listen, I'm not getting the vaccine"? Do you think he'll follow through with that, Carter?
Well, thankfully they don't have to, because it's already come out that it's only a minor league player that's gotten it. So, you know, at the end of the day, I guess we'll never really know. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the whole thing, to be honest with you. I think he made the right decision, whether some people think it or not. You know, there are a lot of gray areas in terms of non-vaccinated players not being able to enter Canada this season. So obviously the Islanders want to make sure they're at full strength, and you know, they're going to get that because pretty much their entire roster, and their minor league roster for that matter, you know, is vaccinated. So I think he made the right call.
And you do have Chara finally signed, so you do got Parise and Chara in place for the start of training camp. Do you see anything in the minor leagues that might even touch on getting into the Islanders lineup, Carter?
To be honest, I'm really not sure. I mean, you know, it changes every year, right? You know, training camp's a fresh start for everybody, and you know, it allows players who might not have had a chance the previous season to try and make it again this season. So, well, we won't really know the answer to that until training camp starts, but you know, we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens.
Okay, so that's all I got for you, Carter. I want to thank you again for coming in, as you do every week on Thursday, again with our NHL.
Now, Carter's pleased, Mac. You didn't ask him one question about the New York Rangers. That's how he wants.
Yes, see, I mean, I know that, and you know, Carter does not like giving those answers. He has a contract where he has to answer questions about the Rangers. So there you go, folks. So anyway, Carter, thanks for joining us. Hockey's around the corner. It's going to start getting exciting again, but we'll keep people up to date on all the news on NHL when we have Carter in here every Thursday at 8:10. Thanks again, Carter. We always appreciate you coming in.
All right, guys, take care.
You too. So there you go, Jack. You now have the skinny in the NHL. I wonder where they came up with the word skinny. You know, things I think about while I'm talking, Jack. You know, they came up with you got the skinny. What does that even mean?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Matt. I know I've been skinny my whole life. Okay, that's about all I know.
So you've always had this skinny then. Okay, so
Yeah.
So Jack, let's get into the MLB playoff picture because it's getting really hot right now, right? I mean, especially in the American League East. So right now in the American League total, on top you have the Rays, you have the White Sox, and of course Houston. It looks like Milwaukee's really the only one that's got it fully locked up right now. I mean, I think the Rays.
The others got it locked up, man.
I know, but I'm just saying there is still a small, slight sliver of a chance that something could happen where these teams may not.
You're right. The Mets blew a 7-game lead with 7.
We're talking right. So we're talking about the American League. We're talking about the leaders right now, Jack. So Milwaukee definitely has it locked up. They got that. Central is locked up. The East, the Rays still have a very slim possibility.
Well, Tampa Bay clinched the playoff spot, even if they lose every game the rest of the year. They're in the playoffs.
Agree. But I'm talking about the leaders right now. So, and over in the West, Houston should have that locked up. You still have the A's and the Mariners with, a 1 in a million shot of getting there. So the Red Sox right now are in the top spot, right? They have gone 8-2 in their last 10. As I told you, Jack, they weren't done. It looked like they were going to fold for a quick minute there. They have too good of a manager there to let that happen. If it was another manager, I think they would have folded. But they got a World Series manager taking two different teams there. He knows what he's doing. He knows his players. He's a player's coach, and he knows how to utilize players. He's proven that already. So I wasn't worried.
Yeah, Alex Cora deserves serious consideration for manager of the year. If things hold up and they get in the playoffs. But don't forget Kevin Nash of the Rays, because they lost 3 pitchers, basically. Snell and Morton left the team this year. Glasnow has been injured. So without their top 3 starters from last year when they went to the World Series, he's taking the team to, the division title again. So there's been some phenomenal jobs.
I agree.
Gabe Kapler, the Giants, unbelievable.
I agree. The Yanks right now are in second. They've been 7-3 in their last 10 games. And the Blue Jays have kind of fall off a little bit. They haven't fallen off totally. They're still in the thick of things. They're half a game behind the Yankees right now. So we got a huge series, the Yankees and the Red Sox. Don't tell me the rivalry is dead, Jack. It's still well and alive. It just takes the right managers and the right kind of teams to make it happen again. So Red Sox, Yankees, Sales pitched last night. That means we may not see Sales during this series, Jack. Good news for us. But what do you think?
Well, you gotta win your other games. If I were the Yankees, I'd be very concerned. Technically speaking, if the season ended today, they would be the second wild card team. But of the 2 teams, the Jays and the Red Sox, I think the Jays are the better team. But the Red Sox have kind of surged a little. They're 2 games ahead of the Yankees. And if they can maintain, let's say, a 2-game lead on the Yankees, they're playing them a 3-game series. The Yankees basically have to sweep just to go ahead of the Red Sox. Right. And that's a big, big chore. And my thinking all along was the Red Sox were going to be the team that the Yankees were going to catch at the wire for the wild card spot. And I think the Jays are a better team than the Red Sox. I think they're maybe a little better than the Yankees. I don't know about that. And I look for the Jays to grab one of the wild card spots. It's up in the air. Oakland and Seattle are hanging around. Oakland's 2.5 down. It's conceivable they can go on a surge and get into the mix. But right now it's a 3-team race. I wouldn't completely discount the Athletics and the Mariners, but they really got their work cut out for them.
You keep saying Toronto's better than the Red Sox and the Yankees. I disagree with it. I think they were hot at one time. The Yankees went on a 13 games winning streak. They were better than the Red Sox and the Blue Jays at that time. The Red Sox went on a big winning streak in the beginning. They got hot. I think it's all a matter of who's hot for this wild card race. I think Jack, that and did I say Milwaukee? I meant Chicago. As I'm backtracking them in my head. I think the 3 leaders have been consistent. They're good, solid teams. I think the other 3, the Yanks, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays get hot at certain times. I don't think either one of those three teams can beat the Rays, honestly.
Well, momentum is overrated, completely overrated in baseball. It means very, very little. If you recall, in the year 2000, the Yankees lost 15 of their last 18 games to start the season. And then in the playoffs, they lost the first game, yet went on to win the World Series. I mean, in 2006, the Detroit Tigers completely collapsed over the last few weeks. They were the worst team in baseball, yet they made it to the World Series. They beat the Yankees in the playoffs. And in a certain sense, if a team has been losing, you think law of averages, now they're going to start winning. And especially the Yankees are streaky. I don't know what to expect from the Yankees. They're playing well lately. They might continue this for a couple of more weeks, go on a surge, go right into the playoffs, maybe cause a little damage in the playoffs. But would you be completely shocked, Mac, if the Yankees lost 6 of their next 9 games and they fall out of it? I wouldn't be completely shocked because that's been their pattern this year. Are they trending towards a positive streaking now, or will it quickly turn around? We don't know. But the 3 games with the Red Sox are obviously important, but there are 3 other games. Let's say the Yankees win 2 out of 3 with the Red Sox. Now they're only 1 game behind them. So if they make up 1 game, even though there's a wild card race, if teams are tied at the end, they play an extra game. Technically, it's not the playoffs, but they play a tiebreaker to see who gets into the playoffs. So in a certain way, that's like a playoff game. It's just not called it.
Well, the benefactor of this series is not the Yankees or Red Sox to me. It's the Blue Jays, right? Because if someone takes 2 out of 3, which is going to happen, the Blue Jays are going to move up. I'm not sure if the Blue Jays play the Red Sox or Yankees at the end of the year. I don't have the schedule in front of me, Jack. I'm not sure. But if the Red Sox, if this happens where either team takes 2 out of 3, if the Blue Jays can keep winning, huge word, if they do, they're the benefactor of this, not the Yankees or Red Sox.
Well, I wouldn't say what to keep winning with the Blue Jays. I mean, the Blue Jays hit a blip against the Rays. I think they played the Minnesota Twins. And I'm going to tell you something. The line of Al Davis, the Raider owner, just win, baby. You can't get caught up so much on who you're playing. I mean, look at the Yankees with the Baltimore Orioles this year. They haven't. This is approximately. They have something like a 10-7 record against the Orioles the last time I looked on the season. And you have a team like the Blue Jays. There's something like 17-1 against the Orioles this year. So, you just got to basically win your games. But I agree with you, Mac. It comes down to the end. The Yankees playing the Red Sox. These 3 games, they're 2 games out. If the Red Sox should take 2 out of 3, the Yankees are 3 games out, and it's so late in the season. But sometimes teams collapse. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange thing. They could seem to have a nice cushion and then lose 4 out of the last 5 games of the season against regular opponents. And another team behind them could go on a streak of winning a few in a row. But time is running out now. Now we're basically at the nitty-gritty. You just can't afford to lose games. The mindset has to be, in a way, 1 game at a time. We got to win. We got to win. We got to win. I got to say something about Aaron Boone, who's come under a lot of criticism. And when we criticize him, we also have to criticize ourselves when we're wrong. I don't have to mention this, but he made a move during the game yesterday. I wouldn't have made the move. As soon as he made the move, I didn't like it. The score's 3-3 and last to the 7th. And Higoshiaka, the Yankee catcher, starting catcher that game, gets on base. And they put in Tyler Wade as a pinch runner, meaning Gary Sanchez is coming in for defense the last 2 innings. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't make that move. I want Higoshiaka in there for his defense. I don't care about the pinch runner. You want to quick a guy like Tyler Wade, but it's more important to have the defense the rest of the game, behind the plate. Well, what happens? Tyler Wade steals second, then he steals third, then he scores, he opens things up. Gary Sanchez, who replaces him, hits a big homer. It worked out perfectly. I've been managing the team. You know, who knows? The kudos to Aaron Boone, you know, for making those moves yesterday, because that was a difference maker in the Yankees game.
I agree. You got to give him his credit when due, which is very, very, very not often, Jack. But anyway, I got to give him credit for that. It was a good move.
Why do you have to give him a dig, Mac? You know, let him just have his moment. Good work, good managing by Aaron Boone.
Yes, okay.
And leave it alone. Yeah,
you are correct. So the National
Talk about Louis Rojas with the Mets.
We're not talking about the Mets.
Why don't we talk about
why do you want to put down the Mets all the time, Jack?
The Mets are boring.
Who cares?
You know, I'm annoyed at the Mets.
Not in the
They were
playoffs, Jack.
brutal against the Red Sox. These
They
last
are
couple-
not, Jack. The Mets are nowhere close to being in the playoffs. That's not happening. The Yankees are. That's why we're talking about the Yankees, and we're not talking about the
New
Mets.
York's big team in the beginning of the season.
It's
They
not-
had replaced the Yankees as New York's main baseball
You're
team.
talking
The
about-
Mets are
you're
feudal. The
you're
Mets are pathetic.
You're talking.
They are pathetic.
You are talking about a team that's not significant right now at the end of the year, Jack. I'm
No,
talking
but
about
that's the
significant.
point. They're boring to even talk
So
about.
why are you talking about it?
I mean, listen, they are New York teams. We
I
do have to
understand that.
mention them. What went wrong with the Mets this year?
That's way
What
too.
went wrong?
That's a whole show, Jack. That's not that's a whole segment for a whole show. I don't have the time for that. So we're talking about what's significant at the end of the year right now. So let's go to National League, right? We have the playoffs coming into focus over there, even more so than the American League. Of course, you have the Braves, Milwaukee, and San Francisco still holding on to the top spots over there. We know that the Dodgers still have a shot at getting to the first place over there. They're still within striking distance. The Phillies still have a small opportunity to catch the Braves. But right now, the Dodgers, St. Louis have that wild card wrapped up. There's no doubt about that, Jack, if nothing else. St. Louis,
Unbelievable, St.
10-0
Louis.
10-0 in their last 10 games.
But that's the point I'm trying to make about a team surging. Mac, for the longest time, it became apparent, okay, San Diego dropped out of contention. It was going to probably come down to them in Cincinnati,
Excuse me.
okay? You know, and it's funny, when we had Brett on, our baseball expert, and you asked, who do you think the wild card is going to be at the end of the season, the second wild card in the National League? We both said St. Louis, if you recall.
Yes.
And they were like a few games out, but we projected St. Louis more likely to close strong. The Padres, wow, have they fallen apart with all their talent? Machado and Tatis are arguing in the dugout, having like a big blow up. That's what losing does to you. The star players start snipping at one another. Imagine Judge and Stanton starting to yell at one another in the dugout. You know, it's a bad fit. I'd say, guys, go into the locker room and discuss things. Don't argue in full view in the dugout. But Cincinnati's fallen out of contention completely. And also San Diego. I mean, they're done. I mean, St. Louis, like 4.5 games up. They're going to get that second wild card. But, you know, Cincinnati rewarded the manager, David Bell, with a 2-year extension. Because, you know, Cincinnati, they've had a good year, even though they're not likely to make the playoffs now. They did lose Trevor Bauer, who pitched from last year, won the Cy Young. So that was an impact player they lost, but yet they still had a good year on balance, even though it's not likely to result in them making the playoffs.
I listen, I agree, Jack, but you know, those 5 teams, there's no doubt are going to be in the playoffs. I don't think anybody, I don't care what happens, at least in the National League, I'm positive that those are the 5 that are going to make the playoffs.
Well, Philadelphia, don't discount them. They're 3 games out.
Yeah.
If they can get closer, they just have to edge closer, go on a little spurt. I wouldn't discount them. This isn't the same Atlanta Brave team. I know Ronald Acuna was injured out for the year. They've had other injuries. But this isn't the same Brave team who I predicted to win the World Series. They remind me of a fighter, Mac. A 12-round fight. They've won the first 8 rounds, and now they're just holding on. They're getting punched around the ring the last 4. but they kind of can maintain that lead until the final bell. And, we'll see how they make out in the playoffs. But the way things stand now, St. Louis would be playing the Dodgers. And like Carlos put, St. Louis has won 9 in a row. If you believe heavily in momentum, it's a one-game playoff. And the way St. Louis is going, imagine they knock the Dodgers out of the playoffs if indeed those are the two teams that are matched.
Be very interesting. And I got a theory on San Diego, Jack. When they got a very, very popular player over there that got hurt and got moved to the outfield, and he got a huge contract. And I think sometimes, especially the younger guys, they get wrapped up too much in their own celebrity, right? I think the team, I think last year, he was more of a ball player for the team. And it's just a theory. I don't have nothing to base this off of except of what I've watched this year compared to last year. Last year he was hustling, he was having fun, he was doing his thing, setting a tone. But I think when you hit a certain celebrity like Tatis listen, he's one of the best ball players in the game. There's no doubt about it. But that celebrity, I think, interferes sometimes with you. It's very hard for any professional to not let things go to the head. They say, no, but it's very hard. Once you get that celebrity and you're known throughout the league and you're known by fans around the country, and it's very easy, especially for a young guy, to get caught up in that, Jack. And I think that happened to Tatis this year a little bit.
You might be right. What's Tatis, like 21 years old? He's a young phenom.
Yeah, young guy.
And you got to look at Manny Machado. Manny Machado played all those years for the Baltimore Orioles when they were chronic losers, big-time losers, yet he never complained, at least publicly. He never asked out of Baltimore. He left because he became a free agent. Baltimore couldn't meet his asking price, and Machado did it the right way. Never complained, was never a distraction in the Oriole clubhouse, never was a prima donna. He was a good team guy. He actually enjoyed playing in the city of Baltimore. Yeah. Imagine that. Now he goes to San Diego. All these expectations, he's finally going to win. And, a lot of people thought the Padres were a threat to win that division this year, unseat the Dodgers. It looked like they had Trevor Bauer locked up, and then the Dodgers swooped in. They're lucky on that account, of course. And they get off to a very good start this year and then kind of fall apart. So it's frustrating. That's what losing does to you. The clip you played with the coaches, Mac, kind of losing it. Players are like that too after a while. You lose, and finally you kind of snap, especially if you don't like a teammate's attitude.
Yeah, and listen, Machado, the veteran who's been like you said, on bad teams. The Padres are not a bad team. They got caught up in a lot of injuries. They fired their pitching coach for some reason because the pitchers got injured. I guess that's his fault.
That really helped a lot. The pitching's been worse than they fired.
Exactly. So, I think that, once you get that celebrity, that's any player and even coach, it's anybody in life, really. You get the celebrity, and you can start believing in this. You change a little bit, and it's hard. You see players do it. It's hard to maintain that level of humble and modesty. It's very hard because you're great. People all know you're great, and sometimes I think it gets in their minds.
What I think, and it also sometimes these blow-ups are a bit overrated. It's kind of like family members because from everything I understand, Machado and Tatis are friends. They get along fine. Friends sometimes go at it in a certain way. And let me tell you, let's say they were feuding and they really had major issues between the two. How teams usually resolve the situation, they trade one of them away. And Tatis has 13 years left on his contract, and he's a phenom. Machado's a star in his own right, but Machado has 8 years left on his contract after this. These guys are going to be Padres long term. So these are the two guys you actually want to build a team around.
Agreed.
Okay? And like I said, it comes down to cultures of organizations. Like arguing, look, the Mets just had their documentary. They would be fighting all along. Darryl Strawberry went after Keith Hernandez once, they'd be fighting, they'd be yelling at the manager, the coaches, one another. But when Darryl Strawberry went to the Yankees, he was a model citizen because it was a different culture. They weren't going to put up with him snipping at anyone else, and he knew it, and he toed the company line. And you're one of the Padres setting the right type of culture, but Tatis is young, and give a young person a chance to mature. Maybe Tatis learns from this. I'm sure him and Machado sat down and talked things out and are working on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe, I don't know what the management structure is there in San Diego or enough about the coach, but that kind of stuff has to be nipped in the bud right away. You got to sit them down and say, this is the way it is. If you don't like it, I don't care how much you're making. These are the rules, and that has to be taken care of. Because for the Padres to have success, I agree with you 100%, Jack. Machado, and Tatis have got to get along and have got to be playing with each other and not be feuding on the field. And of course, the cameras make it a lot bigger than what it is, Jack.
Listen, you should never do it publicly. Look, with the New York Giants, their wide receiver Galladay, he was going crazy on the sideline. People thought he was mad at Daniel Jones. And then he says afterwards, no, it wasn't Daniel Jones. It was Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator, who I was yelling at. You don't yell at a coach. Are you kidding me?
I know.
If I were Joe Judge, I would discipline the guy immediately. I would have the coaches back. We're not putting up with any of this. You have a hissy fit on the sideline, you're sitting. You don't embarrass us. You want to have a hissy fit behind closed doors, we'll bring you into the office. You can vent against the coaches. You can be mad at the coaches, but you're not going to do this out publicly and create a scene. And that's what sometimes happens. You can't embarrass other people on the team, coaches, other players. You have to allow them to save face at the very least. There's a way to address the problems. I don't want to hear, well, he's emotional. He just wants to win. That's all he cares about. No, you don't. You want the darn ball for yourself. You want your own individual stats. Of course you want to win, but you want your own individual stats. So, I hate people hiding behind the premise he just wants to win.
They don't make them like Jerry Rice anymore. Those days are gone. Hey, Robert, great to hear from you. Yeah, the family's doing real good. I hope yours is doing the same. Thanks for tuning in, Rob. Appreciate it. So, Jack, we're going to get our official timeout. Take a timeout. Come back on the other side. We still got the Wall of Fame to get to, guys. And we're going to break down. We're going to talk a little bit about the Monday night game because we weren't on for that. Maybe a little bit about the games. I mean, I know they're in the past. We'll talk about it a little bit. But we're definitely going to talk about tonight's game, Carolina and the Texans. So, We'll be back right after these messages, folks, and we'll go ahead and keep on talking. And don't forget, Brady Tinker, Dallas Cowboy broadcaster and expert, will be up, scheduled to be up about 9:30. So stay with us. Hey, look, the Cowboys don't look that bad, and we'll see what happens. So, folks, we'll be right back after these messages.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. A lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with the latest New York Boxing State Hall of Famer, Jack Hirsch. And folks, Thursday, we miss a lot of the sports from Sunday and Monday night, Jack. You know, it's not as relevant as it was early in the week, but I still want to touch, especially on some of the locals. You know, the Giants gave away the game against Washington. There's no doubt about it. They did everything they could to lose that game. You know, Washington didn't beat them on the field. They lost the game, which happens, Jack, in about 80% of all football games, right? You make them mistakes, critical mistakes at critical times, and you end up losing the game. So they're 0-2 no matter what.
I got to tell you, the old-time great sports writer, Dick Young from the New York Daily News, I remember something he wrote many, many, many years ago that always stuck with me about NFL coaches. They keep telling their players, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive, yet they all of a sudden get conservative and they cost their team a game. It's like they kind of get scared at the end. And, you know, we beat it up pretty much, Byron Williams and myself, Jason Garrett's play calling with 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And it was maybe Joe Judge, too, because he said we wanted to make Washington use their timeouts. Big deal. You make them use their timeouts. They're getting the ball back with a couple of minutes. They can get by without their timeouts if all they have to do is get into field goal range. And sometimes you just wish if a team has a chance to put another team away, go for it. If it doesn't work, I think coaches are scared of what the media is going to say. I think the media has a lot of influence on them because the thought pops into their head, Mac, well, what happens if this doesn't work? The media is going to crucify me. And the truth is the media does second guess, and they are out of line by doing it. But the coaches just, you have a chance to put a team away, put the darn team away. We're going to have Brady Tink on Same thing with Dallas and Tampa Bay at the end of the game. Don't be so concerned with the go-ahead field goal. I mean, get the touchdown. You get the go-ahead field goal. You leave Tom Brady a minute and 24 left on the clock. He's going to get into field goal range. He's just going to, and he did.
At the very least, Jack. So, real quick look ahead. Sunday they play. We'll talk about it more as we get closer. But the Giants against the Falcons, their favorite at home. They're retiring Eli Manning's jersey. I mean, they if they don't win this, I'll be baffled. They've got to beat the Falcons.
I'm going to tell you, Mac, especially the honoring Eli Manning. If the Giants don't beat the Falcons, they're 0-3. Are they out of it in the week NFL East? Technically, no. But these are the type of game they have to win because the schedule just doesn't become easier. So it's kind of weird. What's more of a must game, Mac? If the Giants are playing a divisional rival like the Cowboys, are playing a weak team like the Falcons, you always say it's a bigger game against a divisional rival. We always say that. But come on, you don't beat the Atlanta Falcons. I mean,
I agree. And Buck says they win, and I agree with you. I think they'll win this game.
They'll win. They should win decisive.
The Eagles ran into a rough patch against the 49ers. They played well. I mean, they played competitive. I think they're surprising a lot of people out there, Jack. They lost 17-11. They weren't embarrassed by any means. So it looks like the Eagles are going to be competitive. And going up against a lot of people predicted, I shouldn't say a lot, but a few predicted the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl, including myself. I think they put a good showing on, and they got Dallas coming up Monday night. What a game that should be, Jack.
Now, this is going to tell us a bit about the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't get sold on the Eagles yet. I mean, they beat a very weak Falcon team in the opener, and maybe that's more on the Falcons than the Eagles being so good. And their defense kind of rose to the occasion against the 49ers, and to lose just by 6 points, 17-11, was pretty good. But let's see, if Dallas should run over the Eagles, beat them by 21 points, then maybe the predictions of the Eagles being one of the weaker teams in the NFL is going to play out. But if the Eagles don't win the game, but they're competitive, they lose 24-20, that'll tell us that the Eagles are better than we think they are. And imagine if the Eagles beat the Cowboys. Now we got to take the Eagles seriously as a threat to win the NFC East. So lots riding on that game.
So the Bills, which is one of the local teams around here, ran into a rough patch against the Steelers. They play the Dolphins, Jack, and they destroy them. Washington, who's been playing really well, they're 1-1, but they did, even though the Giants played terrible, they still won. No matter what it is, the record's 2-0. 2-0. Or is it 1-1? I'm not sure now, Jack. I got a brain freeze on me. But anyway, the Washington goes up to play Buffalo. Washington's got a strong defense. Heineke looks like he's going to be a good quarterback for the Redskins. Defense against a really good offense. And the Bills still, to me, even though they destroyed Miami, which I thought Miami is a good team. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're a great team. A lot of people thought they were going to be a great team this year. Tua's hurt now, and Tua I didn't believe in, as you know, before anyway.
Tua got hurt early in the game against the Bills. I understand. So it wasn't his performance Sunday.
I understand that. I still think Tua's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but that's we'll find out. But Washington going up, being underdogs by 8.5 points is a big spread, Jack. And I think Washington's going to play a lot tougher than 8.5. I think they'll give Buffalo everything they can handle. So we'll see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, what do you make out of Buffalo? They lose to the Steelers in the opening game. I couldn't explain that. And the Steelers then turn around and lose to the Raiders. But the funny thing about it, and we're not exactly talking Raiders here, but the Raiders have beaten the Ravens and they've beaten the Steelers. And if you look at the two teams that they beat, then the Ravens turn around and beat the Chiefs, and the Steelers had beaten the Bills. Everyone knows Buffalo's a serious Super Bowl contender, but Buffalo failed to address the running game during the offseason. They thought they're getting some guys back from injuries on the offensive line. It's going to take care of themselves. And Buffalo's running attack is suspect. But look, Buffalo, after suffering that, to me, a shock loss against the Steelers, they really responded big time to blow out the Dolphins 45-0. And you don't know what to make out of the Dolphins. I mean, they did beat New England in the opener. They're 1-1, so obviously they're in the mix. But Jacoby Brissett, who was really who was a former backup in New England, he was handed the starting position in Indianapolis. He couldn't hold on to it. Now he replaces Tua and just doesn't get it done. I have to like Buffalo in that game. I know about Washington's defense, but I think when all is said and done by the end of the year, Buffalo's going to lose very few games. I could see him finishing up at something like 14-3.
Yeah, that sounds about right. New England against your Jets, Jack. I think they taught Wilson a little bit about quarterbacking in the NFL. They kind of ran a lot of different things at him. Wilson tried to make plays, maybe tried too hard to make plays, threw 4 picks. New England, listen, I think New England is going to surprise a lot of people. They might have lost to the Dolphins. Again, they made mistakes where they could have won that game. But I think New England's going to, as Mac Jones grows this year, they're just going to get better. They got a running game. They always got a good defense. They always got good special teams, and they got some weapons around Mac Jones. So I don't think Mac Jones is going to light the league up this year, but I think he's going to be consistent. I think he'll be consistent enough to win, and I think New England this week they win again.
Mac, they're playing the Rams, who the Rams might be the best all-around team in the NFL.
I don't think they're playing the Rams, Jack.
Wait, they're not playing the Rams this week?
No,
wait a second.
They're playing New Orleans, Jack.
New Orleans. I'm sorry. I put it down.
That's cool.
Right. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's
The Rams are playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 1 week ahead because New England is playing Tampa Bay next week.
Right.
And listen, that's the type of game New Orleans should win 6-3.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 6-3 Mac Jones and Jameis Winston a score like that?
Yeah, I can.
I mean, a dogfight. I think it is. The funny thing, I think it is going to be a moderately low-scoring game or even keel, something like New England. But I kind of like New Orleans in that game to upset New England. New Orleans came up flat last week, and I kind of feel it would be a little bit of a bounce back because I think New England is still in a developmental stage. But I'm going to tell you, they play the Buccaneers next week. That's going to be the game of the week. Brady returning to New England. We're going to be all focused on that. But New England, these next 2 weeks, should win one of the next two, either beat New Orleans or beat the Buccaneers. I think they're going to be in a good position going forward.
With Winston kind of fell back into what he was before that first game. He threw a few picks. And Carolina's defense, a lot of people – I told you last year about Carolina, Jack. I told you they were competitive. They now have Sam Darnold. He has weapons. They have McCaffrey's back. Their defense is solid. They may challenge Tampa Bay this year for that division. We'll see.
I doubt it, but they're going to be 3-0 after tonight.
I don't.
They're building. What the Carolina Panthers are doing now is building their cushion. We talked about teams before who build a cushion. They're winning these early games, and they should beat the Texans tonight. Look, with the Texans, Deshaun Watson can't play, obviously. Tyrod Taylor's out in an injury. So in reality, they're going with their third-string quarterback, the Texans. They've been better than what we thought they were. They were actually competitive in losing to Cleveland last week, but they're not that good, the Texans. They did beat Jacksonville. They're 1-1. So on paper, they don't look bad. But this is a perfect game for Carolina. I mean, their defense should smother the Texans, and Sam Darnold is going to put up enough points with that offense. So Carolina's 3-0. Then they're going to lose some later games. But, we're talking about Carolina could be a 10-7, 11-6 team when all is said and done. And that might get them a playoff berth. And Matt Rule there at Carolina, the coach, is building a very nice defensive unit there. So, yeah, so they have upside.
So let's take a quick why would they do that? Buck. They're not gonna hire him. They're gonna let him.
No. Let him his buck. Let Zach Wilson have his growing pains.
Right.
I mean, it happens. Look, a young Joe Namath would throw a number of picks. It's going to be painful for Zach Wilson at times. Let's be honest about it, coming from a Jet fan. The Jets aren't good. The Jets just aren't a good team. But we're going to judge the Jets on a developmental basis. Zach Wilson, first and foremost, how he's developing as a quarterback, that's the biggest thing. How's Robert Saleh developing as a coach? How are certain position players developing moving forward? It's a developmental year. That's all this is. And if the Jets get better as the year goes along, they're competitive in the games. They weren't competitive against New England. That's what's, we're really looking for if you're a Jet fan, and that's what you should be looking for.
I agree 100%. And I mean, you mentioned Namath, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning in their first years. I mean, they were terrible, but they're rookies. They're going to be. Listen, any rookie that comes in and plays normally has if they're in a great situation, and most rookie quarterbacks, as you know, Jack, go to very bad teams. And they're the first round pick because of a reason. It's not because they're going to a team that's established. They're going to teams that are either rebuilding or that are really horrible teams. And they have to, by some way, they get thrown into the fire and they got to come out the other end. That will see how good a quarterback these guys really are. It's not like Brady went to an established team. I mean, he went to New England. He started because of an injury. He wasn't Brady like he is now, but he was good enough to lead that offense. Well, this is a totally different situation. These are terrible teams that Trevor Lawrence and Wilson is going to. Mac Jones is not in a bad position. Fields coming playing this week for Chicago is not in a really bad position. The Bears
He's going to struggle. Fields is going to struggle.
I understand that, Jack, but their team was a playoff team last year. They're not the Detroit Lions, if you know what I'm saying, right? He's not going in and trying to take over the Detroit Lions, is what I'm saying. He's in a better
Mac Jones is in a nice situation with New England, a very nice situation. He's built to succeed the way the team is now.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. If you had a veteran backup, maybe in the quarterback room, it might help him. I don't know. I think that's
kind of like a Josh McGowan. They give nice advice, but the bottom line is what you do on the field. Listen, we don't know Zach Wilson's confidence level. He gives the impression that he's very, very confident. And I can understand a veteran quarterback being a little bit like a mentor. But if you got the right coaching staff, is it that important? What he needs more is blocking than a veteran quarterback giving him advice. When you're under that constant pressure, it's hard to develop. And the first game against Carolina, he didn't throw the picks. That was the one good thing about him. He was sacked 6 times under a lot of pressure, but he didn't make a lot of bad throws. He knew to throw the ball away when he had to. But against New England, listen, Belichick is a defensive master. If I had to pick one defensive coordinator in history who I'd want coaching my team, who would you pick ahead of Belichick? Even though he's the head coach, he's really the de facto defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. And it's tough when you're a rookie like Zach Wilson going against them.
And, Buck might be right. New York might eat him. It might happen. I hope not, because I think the kid's got potential. And if he can hang in there and stick it out, the Big Apple could have ate up Eli Manning too and didn't. So we'll see what happens. Even a Trevor Lawrence, Jack. Trevor Lawrence was great in high school, great in college, but now the speed of the game, as we talked to Jim Jeffcoat, we talked to Byron Williams, we talked to NFL players. It's such a you can look at all the film you want. And I played quarterback at a lower level. The field is, I watch film too, but I'll tell you right now, you can on the field, it's a totally different thing. You know what to read, you know what they're going to do, but when that ball is snapped, it's like this, and you got split decisions to make, throws that maybe you should or maybe you shouldn't play. There aren't too many wide. It happens. But
I got to tell you a funny story. I taught phys ed in night school, 18-year-old kids who needed to graduate from high school phys ed. And this is nighttime. So I take the class out to the field, okay? And I'm showing them elementary football. We're playing a game, the whole class, but I have the quarterback to be in control. But when I'm actually on the field with the night, the field seemed enormous. This wasn't throwing the ball in the gym on the schoolyard. And the field it's so complicated. But I'm a big believer, Mac, in instincts. Some quarterbacks have great instincts. Yeah. Some are like a half second behind. And the ones a half second behind run into trouble. Someone is rushing you. You have to make a quick split-second decision to release the ball where it goes to. And we'd like to mention the name Dan Marino. Like, his instincts were phenomenal, how to release the ball. Certain quarterbacks have that knack, like a Tom Brady, and certain of them don't make the right decision. But and you don't know how tough a young quarterback is. Some of them have tremendous confidence. It's not going to get shaken no matter what. Okay? Right. And others have fragile confidence. Just one bad game could shake up their confidence. But what Buck mentioned, you hope the Jet fans don't boo Zach Wilson. You start booing Zach Wilson, you're not helping him at all. You're not helping him at all. And they started booing him against New England last week, I think, when he threw his 4th pick. And I didn't see the game. I was having my Hall of Fame, that Hall of Fame induction while the game was going on. But I was catching updates. I saw some clips. And the mood gets to be a little ugly, when it gets. What did the Jet fans expect? Did they expect him to beat New England after New England lost their opener? It would have been nice, but, the expectation should be just let him learn, just let him get better. He's going to have some bad games as a rookie.
Oh, Jack, I agree with you 100%. There's so much, and again, I'll refer to Jim Jeffcoat and Byron and some of the other NFL players we had on. It has to do so much with who's around you and what team you're on. Because there are players that have, just to make it to the NFL, I don't want to hear anybody say, he sucks as a quarterback. Let me tell you something. If you're one of those 2% of all the college kids in the country, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands that make the NFL, folks, you got some talent. There's talent there. You're the best of the best just to be drafted, just to get a tryout and stay on a team. You're the best of the best in the country.
Yeah, but just think of it, Mac. Let
me finish, Jack. But if you don't have the right coaching, if you end up on the wrong team at the wrong time, I mean, could you imagine if Tom Brady ended up playing for the Jets or for the Detroit Lions? Would that be the Tom Brady we know today? Probably not. Probably not, Jack. It has a lot to do with where you end up and who's around you. And luck has something, believe it or not, folks, luck has something to do, luck of the draw, of where you end up at what time. That will go forward to seeing how great you are. It's not just you're great. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, in the case, I mean, I don't know, he's sticking on the Jets with Zach Wilson, but the coordinators have such a main say, the relationship that they have with the quarterback. I think a young quarterback needs someone he could be very, very close with, someone who has great confidence in him. And Robert Saleh's a defensive guy coming from the 49ers. And they got LaFleur. I'm not sure his relationship with Zach Wilson. But listen, if a quarterback is good enough, ultimately he'll break through. In the case of the Jets, they don't have a running game. Their wide receivers are so-so. Elijah Moore hasn't really shown much. You'd expect him to show a little more at this point. With the offensive line, Zach Wilson is constantly under pressure. It just depends the setup. When Eli Manning came to when he started playing for the Giants, I mean, Kurt Warner was the quarterback. Kurt Warner had been doing well, but Tom Coughlin suddenly decided to put Eli Manning in. I think the Giants had a 5-4 record.
Yeah, right.
And they started losing the rest of the way. They finished like 6-10. but at least Eli Manning was developing with a semi-good team. But some of these teams are like train wrecks. Could everything get unraveled? And then there's Trey Lance with the 49ers. When Trey Lance eventually gets to play, he's going to be in a good situation like Mac Jones is with New England.
Agree 100%. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break from football. We're not doing a timeout yet, Jeff, because every Thursday I try to get in what we call the Wall of Fame, folks. And you go over to nessp.info at our website, and we have a Wall of Fame for all the sports. And right now we're in baseball, and we're like into the 40s, early 50s generation. And this man here is probably the winningest baseball player in the history of baseball, Jack. So Jack doesn't even know who this is. But this man was on like 13 World Series championships. One of the greatest catchers of all time. Top three, anyway. I think I put him up there with Johnny Bench and Carlton Fisk as the top three. So he went to 10 World Series as a player, 13 as a coach, Jack. And Yogi Berra, 18-time All-Star. Unbelievable. Whoever gets to that point, Jack, where you would be an All-Star 18 times. That's right, folks. Yogi Berra, one of the greatest catchers in the history of baseball, on one of the greatest teams. So that's our Wall of Fame today, Jack. Is Yogi Berra of the New York Yankees.
One of the most beloved athletes of all time. I mean, and Yogi, anything he touched, seemed to turn to gold. There was this funny story when Yogi Berra was a coach on the Yankee staff. Joe Torre's mentioning they had pretty bad turbulence on a flight. And when Joe Torre got off, they asked him, how worried were you when you're on the flight? And he said, let's put it this way. I was looking around for Yogi, knowing that if Yogi's in the plane, it just isn't going to crash because he's the ultimate good luck charm. And, for all of Yogi's so-called comments, it's not over till it's over, and other funny things as well, it's easy to forget what a great player he was. Bill James, the statistical guru, who Major League Baseball is basing a lot of their things on today, the Bill James theory of stats, he rated Yogi Berra ahead of Johnny Bench. You mentioned Johnny Bench before, the different stats, what he did. And you look at 18-time All-Star, 18 seasons to be on top like that. And he was a major part of the Yankee World Series winning teams. Mickey Mantle would get the headlines, Whitey Ford to a less extent. We knew Yogi's contribution, and Yogi was a free swinger. You talk about the strike zones today. Yogi was considered the greatest bad ball hitter in baseball history. He would swing anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, high and away, Yogi would take a hack at it. And he would usually, come through. 285 batting average, outstanding for catcher, 358 home runs. He hit that when home runs were hard to come by, close to 1,500 RBIs for his career. I mean, that's like averages close to 100 RBIs for 15 seasons. And his Yogiisms, you could take which is your favorite, which isn't. I'm sure he didn't say a lot of them. It gets caught up in the myth, but the one, it ain't over till it's over. People use that all the time. But my favorite Yogi,
What I want to do, because we're talking about how great he was as a player, because, he was a big personality. Let's give a quick clip on Yogi Berra's highlights, if we could here. Let me see. Pop it on. Pop.
The Yankee farm system in 43 had become one of the game's best hitters and a top-notch catcher, thanks to the patient tutoring of Yankee coach Bill Dickey. Yogi Berra breaks the ice for the defending champions, gets the season rolling in high with a tremendous homer to the right field stands. Next, Ennis hit a hard smash down the third baseline. Bobby Brown comes up to the ball. Here's a throw into the plate, and the runner is out at home. The next batter, who was Yogi Berra. Gene Woodling raised plenty of dust as he slid home ahead of the throw. Here's the play, and he's safe. Jim Constanti was in his third game of the series when Berra tagged one in the sixth. There it is, another long drive going deep to right field. Going, it is gone. Yogi's second hit of the game, the Yankees' second homer of the 50 series. Yogi Berra helped sew it up with a booming drive into the right field stand. Yogi, has been chosen most valuable player 3 times. And power like this is one of the reasons why. Powerful Yogi Berra was always a thorn in the side of Cleveland pitchers. The stocky Yankee catcher could usually be counted on to drive home the big runs when the chips were down. Don Newcomb starts for the Dodgers, but has more than a little trouble against Yankee power. Yogi Berra, not content with one 2-run homer in the first inning, connects for another in the third, giving the stocky Yankee powerhouse a record-breaking 10 runs batted in for the series.
Yogi Berra, one of the best clutch hitters in baseball. Yogi pulls the trigger on a long smash to left center. It's Yogi Berra's turn in the 7th. Yogi smashes one deep into the right field seats with Joe Collins on base. This is number 28 for the Yankee catcher, and as it turns out, provides the winning runs in a 6-4 triumph for the world champions.
So there you go, Jack. A little thing about Yogi there, right? I mean, listen, the guy was incredible defensively, was incredibly offensively, was always in the clutch, MVP 3 times. I mean, how can you go wrong with having him in the Wall of Fame?
Looking at his swing, I really liked his swing, Mac. It would have been Yogi would have been just as successful had he played today.
Oh, yeah, unbelievable.
He would have been just as successful. He had a nice, quick, compact swing over there. Yogi was tough, too, behind the plate. I mean, Joe Garagiola's boyhood friend used to tell stories of players trying to crash into Yogi, and they would fall backwards. I mean, he was really, tough. And he did a great job handling pitching staffs. And who could forget him leaping into Don Lawson's arms with that perfect game that Yogi called. They always ask Yogi the last strike of the game, that when it ended, Lawson got his perfect game. Was that really a strike to Dale Mitchell? And Yogi kind of double talked his way out of that,
Hey, listen.
But of all of Yogi's lines, I just want to say quickly, the one I like best isn't "It ain't over till it's over." This I found the funniest. He was introduced to Ernest Hemingway, the great literary giant. And they said, Yogi, we want you to meet the writer Ernest Hemingway. And Yogi had no idea he was. So Yogi was being polite. He said, what newspaper do you write for, Ernie?
There you go. There you go. Hey, folks, we got Brady Tinker waiting backstage. We're going to take 2 minutes to do a couple quick commercials, and we'll be right back with the Dallas Cowboy expert broadcaster. Love having him on when he comes on. Brady Tinker. We'll be back in 2, folks. Be right back.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live 8 to 10 a.m. Thursday through Sunday. Have a great program today so far. We're even going to make it a little bit greater, Jack, because backstage right now is one of the best guests we have on, very knowledgeable on all the Dallas Cowboys information. He does a broadcast. I think it's called The Cowboys Life. He's working for the Dallas Cowboy Network right now. At least his show's on there. So very popular out there in Dallas. Let's bring on Brady and see what's going on. How you doing today, Brady?
Mac and Jack, what's up, boys?
Hey, Brady, you tell us what's up with the Cowboys.
Well, hey, things are thumbs up with the Cowboys.
Before you start, Brady, I mean, Jack will just let you go. So I want to pin you down a little bit with some questions, all right?
Yeah, hit me.
Dallas is 1-1 right now. Could be 2-0. Could be 0-2. Really. Yeah, I mean, they could be very exciting games. Dak is back. Didn't play as well as he did in the first game, but the running game kicks in, right? I mean, you had a two-back attack. Pollard rushed for 109. Zeke at 71. The defense, with Parson playing end, seemed to come alive against the Chargers, and a very good quarterback, too, over there in Herbert. So, I mean, they played really well. What are your thoughts?
They did play well. You know, these games always come down to a few plays. They were fortunate that the Chargers had 2 touchdowns called back. The NFL, in my opinion, continues where they left off last year. I thought the Super Bowl was tainted tremendously with 9 accepted penalties for 100 yards in the first half for Tampa. And I thought they took away from their own game. And as I watched some of these games, I felt bad for San Diego. They had 2 touchdowns called back, one of them for no particular reason. There are a lot of no particular reason calls getting made, and I think it's the best league in the world, and I don't understand why NFL officiating continues to dominate games and have such a major effect on games. That having been said, the Cowboys' disposition and the way that they're playing and the way that their defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator specifically are handling the players, handling situations, handling injuries is the best I've seen in years.
I agree.
So I guess that has to reflect on Mike McCarthy. On the other hand, I watched Mike McCarthy try and kick a 60-yard field goal right before halftime in the Tampa Bay game, which would give Tom Brady the ball with 15 seconds left to go inside midfield, which was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. After the game, he said, well, I was trying to give my kicker some confidence. And I thought, what about the game, dumbass? And then last week at the end of the game, they're in great position. Dak is driving them down the field. They're going to kick a field goal to win. And the head coach can't see up on this new scoreboard in Sci-Fi or SoFi Stadium. He can't find the clock. He doesn't know how much time is left in the game. That's what happened. They had 30 seconds left to go. They had a timeout. They needed about 7 yards to get inside 50 yards, which is what you'd like to do. The ratio of kicks made is 13.5% less when you're inside 50 than when you're outside 50 based on last year. 13.5%. You're going to make any kind of bet, and you tell me I can have 13.5% more probability of making a kick or winning a bet. I want my 13.5%. But the head coach couldn't find the damn clock. So the clock rolled down to 4 seconds. He rolled out a kicker who the week before was awful, and he got lucky. He nailed it, made it right in the middle. So McCarthy is the only drawback I really have on this season, to be honest with you. I didn't have a problem with Dak's numbers not being as good because they ran the ball effectively. Tony Pollard is now in the game plan. For any of your people who are out there who are fantasy guys who are wondering about Zeke, Pollard is now not a week-to-week thing where you say, okay, this week he might work well against this type of defense. He's in the game plan, and probably almost as much as
Zeke.
Zeke is, yeah, sorry. and that's the way it's going to go. And it's actually a good thing because it's just another weapon. The only problem that they have this week is, Michael Gallup is still out and will be out probably for another couple of games. And now it looks like there's a chance one of the other wide receivers is not going to play as well.
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper has an ankle issue or something.
Well, whenever they say a guy's questionable, it means he's going to play. Okay.
Well, he'll play. Yeah. That's right. He will play. And they leaned on him towards the end of the preseason because he had an ankle at the end of the preseason. The Cowboys came to him and said, you look pretty damn good in workouts. We're ready for you to come play football. Amari's a strange guy. And he likes to be 100%. When he's 100%, then his confidence is up. He runs maybe the best routes or top 3 in the NFL in routes. He is Dak's favorite target, no matter what people think about CeeDee Lamb on the rise. Amari is his favorite target. But I would say getting used to Amari, he will play, but he will not be the normal Amari. You'll see him in. You'll be wondering where he is in the middle or end of the game when he's out. He's a strange cat. He's a talented cat, but he's a strange cat. So they're going to be missing some of their weapons.
Well,
I'm
a
little. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm going to hit you on 2 points you made and 2 things you said. Mm-hmm. First, it's kind of funny that Zeke gets this huge contract, and they're going to depend on the other one more. It looks like to me. I mean, I understand they wanted to get Zeke signed, but when it comes to running backs, it's always a gamble if you're going to sign them big contracts. Giants are going to have that problem with Barkley coming up soon. And secondly, I look at Gallup as the glue that holds that wide receiver team together, right? I mean, Cooper, when he's healthy and he feels right, if he doesn't pull himself out of the game, is a great wide receiver. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be another great receiver, but Gallup's going to hurt more than people realize. He makes the catches that some reason nobody notices. I mean, he's made some unbelievable catches for you guys in the last couple of years, maybe because you guys didn't go to the playoffs with him. But that is one of the better receivers in the league, Brady.
I agree. And I was born and raised in Kansas City, so I'm already sort of on the side telling Michael Gallup, hey, call Andy Reid and go play with the best quarterback in football if these guys don't re-sign you. All indications are that they've already paid everybody else. CD is going to stay. They're not going to pay a third wide receiver. He probably, depending on what he does the rest of the year, he'll probably command between $10 and $15 million a year, and that's more than the Cowboys will want to pay. As far as Zeke and what he got paid, I think in my years here when Parcells came here, he really would talk to me about the fact that first-round draft picks get an extra amount of time to make the team and improve. So does second round and maybe sometimes third rounds. Other than that, he's got a line of a list of players in his back pocket right here that want to play football. And so you go find the guys that want to play football and that will play the right way. They signed Zeke. They loved Zeke. They thought Zeke was part of their brand. Zeke's not doing anything wrong. He's in his 5th year? What happens to running backs in their 5th year? they slow down, especially a guy who took on the number of carries that he took on the first 3 years of his career. He's taken a beating, and he's already taken a beating this year because he's picking up blitzes. And really, none of the news is bad. Zeke just is who he is. And when you put him speed-wise and quickness-wise next to Pollard, you're like, what the hell's wrong with Zeke? Nothing. Really nothing. You know, he ran nicely last week. 4.7 yards a carry was nicely. It just didn't jump off the page like Pollard did. But for fantasy players, it's going to be close to an equal split for the rest of the year. It really is. And they'll play them together sometimes because Pollard got a lot of looks during the preseason lining up in the slot. He catches the ball very well. He runs good routes, and that might be a way to get them both on the field. And they might really need that this week if Amari happens to not play. They'll need a few other weapons. But, hey, let's talk about your team because or the teams that you guys cover, because I think the Philadelphia Eagles are way better than people thought they were.
I agree. Listen, I think Philadelphia, what they have, and we had, Jim Jeffcoat, Byron Williams is on the show, a receiver, and the Philadelphia Eagles at their skill positions have tremendous speed, right?
Scary.
Hurts runs well. Sanders is a dynamite ready to explode. You've got Devon Smith over there. You've got Watkins. I mean, they have the type of offense that's very hard to stay with if they get hot. If Hurts performs well, the Eagles are going to be very competitive this year. There's no doubt in my mind. Their defense, Brady, is always tough.
Yeah, better. For some reason, I think all of us thought, well, you got a new coach in, he's learning. You got a quarterback who's still in the learning process. And it's probably a year where they get 4 wins, and this is just, and everybody's kind of okay with it. This is that year. But I'm with you. As I look at the skill position players on this team, and I know Hurts is going to make bad decisions, or he's going to miss open receivers, or he's going to get reads that aren't quite right. That's part of the growing process. And it probably will, in the end, cost them some games. But every week, Philadelphia's going to have a chance to win football games because, and they'll have a chance this week against the Cowboys on Monday night. The speed that they bring, the Cowboys' strength right now, oddly enough, are safety and linebacker in terms of depth and athletes, and that's the way they're trying to affect games is with the athleticism. He's using all 5 safeties. He's using all 5 linebackers. He's rotating people in and out, and he's trying to get athletes in the right position to make plays. And it's working, and it's resonating with the guys on this defense. Everyone knows they're going to play. Everyone knows they're part of the game plan. He's going to everybody, Dan Quinn is, and saying, you're a great athlete. These 4 situations set up greatly for you. You're going to get an interception. You're going to make a big hit. And everyone's buying in. But the weakness is at the cornerback position, especially Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown has been here for 5 years, seems to have sort of hit whatever ceiling he had. They need another cornerback. Diggs is playing well. And the number one thing the Cowboys are doing, and these two things run contrary to each other right now. The Cowboys lead the NFL in turnovers and turning people over. You guys don't study them like I do, but for 15 years, the Cowboys don't get turnovers. They just don't. It's almost like they don't want them.
Well, some of them are flukish, Brady, like Tampa Bay to Leonard Fournette, a simple screen pass. It pops out of his hands. It's intercepted. But I don't give the defense any credit for that.
I do give them credit because the bottom line is an opportunity comes, you have to take it. The old Cowboys wouldn't have caught the interception. The old Cowboys, the interception would have hit my linebacker in the face and it would have dropped on the ground, or it would have tipped, or he would have fumbled it. Now they're catching it. And so it's two things, opportunity is given by being in the right positions. So, he's right there ready to make the tackle. The ricochet happens. You have to catch it. And if you watch as much football as I do, they play defense for a reason. 50% of the guys wouldn't have caught the ball. So really, I know it seems simple, and you see it and you're like, well, hell, my kid would have caught that. Yeah, maybe. But not necessarily. So I do give them credit for some things that look easy because you're in the right position. If you watch the Chiefs game, Honey Badger had 2 interceptions last week. Both of them look pretty simple, but he got himself to the right spot and he makes the plays. And as odd as it seems, so often the plays don't get made, and we all sit in front of the TV and go, well, he plays defense for a reason. He can't catch.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the defense a little bit more.
Yeah.
What a pickup Parsons was. I mean, if you think about it, he's a linebacker. He's a rookie. He moves the defensive end, and he affects the game. I mean, he has more pressures than any rookie in the history of the NFL in his first 2 games. They knew they knew he was going to be a talent, Brady. But when you move from one position to another, even though outside linebacker and defensive end is similar, but there still is a different scheme you're running as end as you do a linebacker, right? So you got to be able to adapt to that. You got to use your athleticism, and you got to be smart. And he did all those 3 games against the Chargers.
Yes, we give a lot of credit to a couple of things. One, they got lucky. This is not who they were going to choose. They were choosing one of the 2 cornerbacks in the draft. Neither one of them got to them. They had earmarked another linebacker that they wanted in round 2, who they ended up getting in round 4. And they kind of got to a point where they looked up at the board and they were like, well, that's not what we thought was going to happen. We have to take him. And the only reason that they were down on him at all is, 1, he had taken a year off. And 2, there were a few character issues, fraternity things, hazing things that you always worry about. Is he a good person? You know, is he someone? I mean, that's the challenge every time, especially with early round picks. You're going to pay lots of money. Does he want to play? Right? Will he care about this in the organization? Will he transition from college to pros, et cetera? And so they got lucky with him, and he has. And then Dan Quinn again. I keep going back to these coordinators, man. But these coordinators have this team in their hands and have them listening and have them believing. And I'm telling you, this Cowboys team is as dangerous as they've been since Dak, the first year that he played when they won all those games and the world was perfect. Injuries are a big thing. You said let's talk about the defense. Keon O'Neal, who is a Dan Quinn favorite, he brought him from Atlanta, is not going to play. Now Dorrance Armstrong, the backup left defensive end, is not going to play. Tank Lawrence, as we know, is out. Randy Gregory is going to play, but he's coming off of a COVID situation. So I think there's going to be a lot of bend, don't break this week from the Cowboys. There'll be a lot of 2 and 3 deep zone. We're going to let you throw to those tight ends. We're going to let you throw to that running back and try and tackle you and hope that we can keep up. But if for anybody's out there betting, I think it was 4.5 maybe this morning. I'll take those points. I think the Cowboys will find a way to win, but I'll take 4.5 points. And I'll probably take the under. Philadelphia's defense has been terrific. And the Cowboys defense isn't giving up big plays, which probably is what the Eagles will need to win.
Brady, there's a little bit of a storyline. You mentioned the draft. The talk was the Cowboys would have wanted to probably take Patrick Surtain. So I think they lucked out. But the point is they traded with the Eagles. They flip-flopped first-round draft choices and took a third-round choice, even though it seemed to be a good deal with the Cowboys. So the Eagles could draft Devonta Smith. And might that be a tiny element in this game? Devonta Smith, maybe the Eagles want to hype him up and they're going to put him in the game plan more to say these guys didn't want you. And the Cowboy corner's a bit weak. I could kind of sense something brewing here. Devonta Smith being targeted a little more in this game.
Well, they've targeted him the most by far anyway. I mean, I love Quez Watkins, but he's only had 5 targets. So he scares the hell out of me. He's caught all 5 of his targets. And I think maybe Rager, however you guys say it, is another guy who's motivated because wasn't he a first-round pick? So I think that, he's one who's plenty motivated as well. But sure, I mean, Smith's a talent. And I have a feeling we'll get a lot of digs on Smith, which doesn't mean he's going to shut him down. I don't place Diggs as a shutdown corner yet, but he is improving. But you guys can spread the field. Those 2 tight ends are talented. That running back is talented. And then you got to chase the damn quarterback around. And the Cowboys haven't done that yet this year, right? They haven't had to chase a quarterback. They've had 2 pretty much stationary quarterbacks.
Brady, I'll tell you the key to the game, and I think this is what the Eagles are going to do. I don't think they're going to come out throwing. I think they're going to see if they can challenge him with Sanders. I think if the Eagles get Sanders going on the ground, Dallas is going to have a long game. I believe they're going to go safety high. Your linebackers may be athletic. That offensive line of the Eagles is no joke. And if Sanders can get going on the ground, in fact, they got 2 pretty good backs, Sanders being the primary one. If the Eagles can get that running game going, then the play action pass opens up to the tight ends, which the Eagles are known for. And then you still got that big throw. Dallas has got to stop that run, I think, if they're going to win this game. If they can't, Dallas is in for a long game. I'm not saying Dallas won't win, but I think the Eagles will be very tough if that running game gets going.
Hey, it won't shock me if the Eagles win. It really won't. I mean, they're coming here, but there's not a great home field advantage here. There may be 100,000 people in this stadium, but it's still not very loud. there'll be a lot of Eagles fans here.
You're too distracted, Brady. You're too distracted with everything else going on in that state.
That's the good news, though. I keep coming back to that. This team seems to not be distracted. Its owner is easily distracted because he's a marketer and he likes to make money and he likes to be in front of the camera. But I think this team is as focused as they've been. I'm with you, though. So far, I'm not a big fan of your coach. I think play calling has been weird. I think he's made a lot of mistakes. I watched last week, and I watched Miles Sanders get about 6 carries on a drive and average 5.5 yards a carry, and then he didn't give him the ball anymore.
I agree. He's not my coach. Believe it or not, Brady, I'm a Giant fan at heart, so I got a whole bunch of issues. I got a whole bunch of issues. Trust me.
Listen, the kicking game, Brady.
Yeah.
If the Dallas kicking game should implode this week, I mean, Mike McCarthy's really going to be under a ton of criticism. I mean, it was a gutsy move by McCarthy how he's handled the kicking game.
Well, it's either been gutsy or stupid. Bones Fossil is his guy too. So they tried to block a punt last week when it was 4th and 20 and ran into the kicker, and now Bones is like, well, Cowboys fans like aggressiveness, and I'm like, dude, everyone likes aggressiveness, but what else they like is when the other team punts, you have the ball. They like
that works.
Running into a kicker on 4th and 20 and giving a talent like that, let Charger quarterback the ball back is friggin' ridiculous, and he continues this week to defend himself. Just like McCarthy at halftime of game 1 when he let Zerline run out there and try a 60-yard field goal after he'd missed a 30-yarder and 23-yarder, and he said, I was trying to give my kicker some confidence, and I was like, I thought you were trying to win the damn game. What are you doing? And those two guys are tied together. So you never know what's going to happen with the kicking game because Bones is crazy and McCarthy's I don't know what. But the one thing is, every time I think I'm ready for McCarthy to be gone, I look at one thing. When this season began, I said, first of all, will Dak be able to walk? Will he be afraid of that ankle? And playing Thursday night football against that damn Tampa front had to have been terrifying, and he never blinked, and he has looked better in the 4 games he played last year and better in these first 2 games than he's ever looked in his career. He's reading defenses better. He has control of this team. Zeke is 100% on his side, so they are walking around shoulder to shoulder like Romo and Witten did. We got this. You guys fall in behind us. We're going to work our asses off. You guys do the same. So there's a lot of good news there. The coaching quirks, McCarthy could have been gone if they'd have gone 0-2 because it's a long season and probably
I don't think they fire anyone in season, Brady. That's very rare. I couldn't imagine. Jerry Jones stuck with Jason Garrett for the longest time when there was a call to let him go. I can't imagine an in-season move unless McCarthy does something that's so outrageous and off the wall. Well, I just can't imagine an in-season firing.
I think the history of Jerry says that's probably right. He's only fired 1 coach in season that I can remember, and that was Wade Phillips. But the reason I think it is a possibility is Dan Quinn's been a head coach, and Dan Quinn has a real handle on a lot of guys on this defense. And also, everybody thinks Kellen Moore's probably gone after this year to get a head coaching job anyway. He seems to be a savant, and he's working beautifully with Dak. So I don't think one of the things that wouldn't happen is I don't think this locker room would be pissed if Mike McCarthy got fired.
There you go.
And I don't think this locker room thinks that they would, miss a beat. I think they think Dan Quinn can slide in. He can promote the English defensive line coach to be the defensive coordinator, but he will run the defense and he will let Kellen Moore continue to run the offense. And I don't think it will bother them.
How many years was McCarthy's contract for when he signed it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think 5. I think.
I think that's a factor too. If it was a 5-year, if it is a 5-year deal, he's in the 2nd year. Yeah. I don't think the Joneses like the idea of paying out all that money, firing a guy not working. I think that always factors into it.
It has through the years, and Jerry has said, I don't like paying people to do nothing, and billionaires don't like giving their money away for nothing. They're billionaires for a reason. They find a way to keep their money. The mitigating factor is you know, Jerry Jones is not as healthy as he used to be. Jerry Jones is becoming an old man, and he wants something in the way of a Super Bowl appearance before he is incapable of continuing to do his job and be the owner and general manager of this team. That's one of the reasons I think that he would make a decision that would seem maybe slightly out of character.
You know, Brady, going back to the beginning of the season, right? And you saw the 3 games Dallas was going to have. You saw them; they're going to play the Super Bowl champion. They're playing a Charger team that's very talented. Then they're playing the Eagles, and you thought, well, you know, maybe they're 1-2, and you'd be happy with that as long as they played tough. But you guys got a shot at going 2-1 in your first 3 games against 3 very competitive teams. And if you beat the Eagles, which is, you know, a division game, you know, you guys are looking sharp in your first quarter here. I mean, we're almost at game 4. Did you imagine this happening with all the question marks going into the season?
Well, no. I was sort of focused on what's going to happen at 0-2, and might he fire this coach? And they could easily be 2-0, and they could easily be 0-2. They've had a couple of breaks. But I keep going back to the coaching and the way this team is responding. You guys have said for years, and I've told you for years, you know, this is a country club. This is the Ritz-Carlton. Every time they walk into the office, into this $3 million or $3 billion facility that they built a practice in, it's like nothing that any of them have ever seen. And it always seems to me like this team has lacked an edge the last 15 years, really, and most of the time since they won their last Super Bowl. This team lacks an edge. I see more of an edge and a togetherness. They have 36 new players on this roster. So, you know, there were guys last year, especially when the year got tough and they couldn't win one more game at the end of the year to make the playoffs. There were guys last year, I don't want to say quit, but there were guys last year who had checked out, let's say that. The year wasn't going the way they wanted it to. Everybody thought Jason Garrett was going to get fired the year before, but nobody warmed to Mike McCarthy. It was a COVID year. Whatever the excuses were last year, this team was willing to take them, especially chief number 1, Dak's not playing anymore. I don't see that this year. And you know, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I grew up in Kansas City, so I will always tell you guys the truth. This is as together a group as I've seen, and maybe as athletic a group, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as I have seen in a long time. And that's the reason they are turning people over. And that's the reason that they are playing, you know, from the first whistle to the last whistle. And with Dak doing what he's doing, which we haven't talked about enough, what Dak's doing to me is incredible. He looked down last year in game 5 at his ankle and wanted to pop it back into place and realized it was facing east when it should have been facing west.
Yeah.
Go through what he's gone through. Really, name me a catastrophic injury like that where someone came back this quickly. Even Tom Brady said, you know, my knee injury in my 4th year or whatever was brutal, and it wasn't nearly what his was. And Tom Brady's first year back, he threw 24 touchdowns and 14 or 15 interceptions. He wasn't special. It took him a full another year. For Dak to be doing this and standing in under the fire and not flinching at all, to me, first of all, as a human, is amazing. And so he is inspiring them. And these 2 coordinators are inspiring them. And this team's mindset is right for the first time in years.
Well, we gotta get going, but I'll leave with one more comment, Brady. I think Dan Quinn was the smartest thing the Cowboys did this year, picking up as defensive coordinator, because the Dallas Cowboy defense looked confused last year. This year, I know he made it simpler for him, and I know he knows what he's doing, and that's what the Dallas Cowboys needed to be successful this year, and they made that right move.
He came in and showed everybody the Legion of Boom, you know, that he helped build some years ago with a bunch of 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks, and said, I'll do this for you. I'll put you guys in position to get interceptions, to make Pro Bowls, to make plays, you know, to show up on SportsCenter, and everybody bought in, and he's delivering, no doubt.
Okay, Brady, we thank you for coming in. We'll have you back this year again, talk about the Cowboys maybe around the halfway point to see what's going on. I mean, you know, they divide it into quarters, and, you know, it could change. It could be better, it could be worse, it could say this, who knows. But,
no doubt.
There's going to be – I think the NFC East is going to be very tight this year. I think it's going to come down to the last few weeks, and they'll decide everything because there's a lot of competitive teams in there. And
I'll leave you with this. One of the last things that Dan Quinn told everybody, and he kept preaching all preseason and all training camp, he said, you guys, This is going to be the longest season you've ever been through. We are going to run into incredible adversity, injuries, COVID, whatever else is going to happen. And instead of us rounding our shoulders like you guys did last year, we're going to stand up and we'll all get in there every week and we'll figure out a game plan that will let someone else be a star, someone else be a star, someone else be a star. We got this every week, and they believe it.
And that's
and so far they're doing it. You know,
that's important. The communication.
Two damn good quarterbacks they played against, and
You
as
got
you said,
that right.
to be
You got
1-1.
that.
Let's see how they do chasing this kid around this weekend, but I think they'll do all right.
It should be a great game. So, Brady, have a great one. Thank you for stopping again. We always enjoy having you in, Brady.
Absolutely, boys. Hey, my stories are at the Cowboys website, DallasCowboys.com. Go to podcast, and the story is called A Cowboy Life. The first one is Jalen Smith, and the next two are sort of a Romo and Witten combined story.
Beautiful, beautiful. So go check it out. He does great work.
Good stuff, Brady. Thanks.
Thank you, Brady. So there you go, folks. Brady Tinker, a great broadcaster, expert in the Dallas Cowboys. We love having him in. Jack, we're coming to a close. Fun show today. Kind of moved around a little bit. We covered a lot of topics, a lot of things going on in sports.
He kept saying the Eagles were our team. Now,
maybe he thought
telling us we're fans of the Philadelphia Eagles. He kept throwing that on us.
That's okay. We straightened them out at the end, Jack. You know. So anyway, folks,
I didn't straighten them out. I had maybe I should adopt the Eagles for this season only.
Who knows? Anyways, folks, we had a great time today. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10 a.m. And stop in and join us again for a cup of coffee. Have a great day.